Wilkins-Diehr. I'm from the San Diego Supercomputer Center. Myself and my colleague Mike Zentner from Purdue are going to tell you just a little bit about the Science Gateways Community Institute, hopefully enough to whet your interest. And then we'll have some time for just kind of an informal meet and greet, ask us questions, we'll get a beer together, we'll talk about gateways. So we take the time to tell you a little bit about some of the work that we're really excited about.
So when we think about Science Gateway, what we're talking about is a pain point that exists between sharing expensive resources and expensive data sets with researchers who write codes and analyze the data coming out of those instruments with massive audiences that really want to use those in ways that the original researchers didn't intend. And this leaves a major gap for which we provide a solution.
We're going to tag team this presentation for added interest in case you didn't know that. So chances are that some of you in the audience have been developing things that we call Science Gateways, but you call by any number of other names, web portals, research platforms, all sorts of different things. We've seen, in our experience over 2 years around this institute, we've been developing these things for a lot of different reasons, interfaces to data collectors, to instruments, to supercomputers, which is how I first got started with them, of course, but sensor data, observational data, there's really a lot of different things. Yes, that's my problem with the handoff. Citizen science projects are also another really interesting thing for Science Gateway. So this is kind of our Wikipedia definition, online community space for science and engineering, web-based resources for accessing some of the resources that I mentioned in the previous slide. Depending on where you go in the world, these go by a number of different names. The exciting thing is that we're all working on them together and learning from one another in the process.
So fortunately, if you're developing a Science Gateway, you're not alone. There are a lot of infrastructures out there to help you build Science Gateways. Some of them are listed here. This is hardly a comprehensive list. But also if you go to our sciencegateways.org website, you can find a catalog now that's at 449 different Science Gateways built by a variety of different means. But unfortunately, you're not alone. The unfortunate part of this is there's a great deal of confusion amongst all of these different frameworks and approaches to building Science Gateways that leaves a lot of us confused in terms of what the various frameworks have to offer and what approaches we should use to do this. In fact, even on top of that, the lack of awareness of some of these frameworks by the community at large results in many people building very customized solutions to solve problems that many of us have already solved many times over. So when we think about what we're doing with the Gateway Institute, it is literally to institutionalize this expertise in a way that others can take advantage of it. It's to bridge gaps. It's to bridge gaps about the fact that a community exists where prior to the Institute, the community was a very loosely formed group of people who sort of knew each other, and what we want to do is solidify that community. It's about a gap in knowledge. There are people in this community who have immense knowledge about how to connect to various resources that should be sharing that knowledge with each other. It's about a gap in awareness of the many gateways that are out there already that may already be serving a purpose that a gateway you may be thinking about building also serves. It's about a gap in efficiencies. Many of us are doing many of the same things and developing many of the same codes, probably unnecessarily, and could gain efficiencies if we had more of a community around this. And ultimately, it's about a gap in sustainability that all of us are fighting for these days with new gateways.
Fortunately, we can the National Science Foundation has been generous enough to fund us as one of their first two inaugural software institutes. This has really raised the visibility of gateways as well as our ability to help people build them in a more cost-effective, more sustainable way. So we've been in operation for a little bit over 2 years now. The interest in what we're delivering and what we're doing has been really tremendous. It's like really gratifying. So there are a number of ways that we help that ability gateway. So the interesting thing about the work that I've been doing for gateways and supercomputers is that we would see people from all different disciplines building these things. So GIS folks, digital humanities folks, phylogenetics, hierarchy physics, all across the board. And so we've learned from seeing all these different projects. So what we do from this summer expertise is help people make the appropriate technology selections. So if you have a gateway that you want to do X, Y, and Z, you can say, oh, that sounds like a framework like this. You can see what somebody else has done in this regard. If you're doing something else, we might suggest something different. So it's kind of a spread of knowledge, but it's also helping to advise the research community on the long-term impact of these things. But some of the problems that we've seen is many of them are funded off of short-term research grants. And so you put something out here for the community, it becomes wildly popular. But if you haven't planned for that, the way forward is to go in here and giving people some of that advice back well. The other component is you see this kind of diversity of expertise here. A gateway could use a little bit of a lot of these sorts of things, but only for a short time. If you're a small project, you can't hire a full-time usability person or a full-time cybersecurity person. With us, you can get them for 3 to 4 months, just what you need while you need it, and then you're done, you move on, you don't have that cost and staff members, and then we're able to support anyone that way.
Another key service we offer is business consulting, and you might ask yourself, why is business consulting important for a gateway? And when you think about what a gateway really is, it's a business. It's a small business, even if it's not intended to make money. You're basically serving a large number of customers. And you have many of the same concerns that any business that serves a large number of customers might have. So we provide a variety of services to advise people who are running gateways on the business aspect of running those gateways, ranging from how to market those, how to communicate about them, specialized graphic design services to help their gateways look as good as they possibly can look. Looking at budgeting, for example, from an activity-based standpoint, rather than what we typically do in grant budgeting, which is a percentage of a person. Gateways have a very defined set of activities that you have to undertake to run one, and so we need to think about how we budget for them a little bit differently. We help with the gateways understand the market that they're entering into, what some of the competing approaches might be, whether those are direct or indirect approaches. And ultimately, we can also help those campuses that start to get interested in having further gateway expertise on their own campus, not necessarily getting expertise from the Institute, to start to establish small groups of people on their campus that can help many different researchers who are trying to establish gateways on local campuses. Another key part of our business offerings is a week-long boot camp. And what I would call the boot camp is really a deep dive for a week into many aspects of running a gateway. And probably the most interesting statement that we get out of the participants of the boot camp is they'll get together and after a week they'll say, this is the first time our team ever got together for a whole week and really thought about strategic issues. Why didn't we do this before? This is a very important activity for people who are especially on distributed teams to do this. So we spend a whole week really creating an experience where people do a lot of experimentation with hypotheses about their gateway, taking them through how to initially talk about their idea, all the way down through how to go about selling that idea and all the steps in between. If you're curious about the boot camp, the next one will be in May in the very exciting city of Indianapolis, Indiana. You can't register for it just yet, but if you register for our newsletter at sciencegateways.org, you'll be informed about when the application for this comes open.
So one of the other components we do to bring the community together to share experiences is we hold an annual conference. So this is something we've been doing since 2005, but we've been able to expand it to this software and computer board to be a multi-day event that includes tutorials and keynotes and posters and all the types of things things that we see at this conference here that you kind of expect from a conference. So next year, we're really excited. We're going to be in San Diego, my hometown. We're also going to be co-located in the East Science Conference. Those of you who know that it rotates locations all over the world. Sorry. How do you get those? You asked me a very enlightened question at the end of my conversation. No. So we'll be in San Diego next summer. We're going to be in the beautiful Catamaran Resort, and we're really excited about this overlap with the East Science. We also, Mike mentioned the hundreds of gateways that we have in the gateway catalog. This is another service we offer for gateway developers. So as popular as gateways are, it can be really difficult to find an existing gateway that might do exactly what you want, but you don't know it exists. You Google Science Gateway for an X, Y, and Z, not very easy to find. So one thing we thought we would do is assemble this worldwide catalog of operational and for the large part, publicly accessible science gateways. Over 400 entries, but what we also do is have functioning gateways, but then the software used to build them. And so if you see something you like, you find out what that was built with, who can I talk to about helping me build something like that. And so kind of a one-stop shop for all sorts of things. We also have a hosting environment, so there are a number of gateway technologies that are installed on virtual machines as part of the Science Gateway Community Institute that you can take and run with right away. So you don't have to download the software, and you can get right in there and play it. It's hosting sandbox that allows you to get up and going really quickly. Maytal Dahan from TAC is an audience leads that effort. A number of us will be around for that talking to you, and we're happy to talk about what we're doing on the board. Finally, we have a terrific student program. We have an internship program that pairs students with our staff at SGCI and also our clients to learn how to build gateways. So these terrific summer-long experiences where they're involved in real-world projects, helping to add functionality to a gateway, helping to build a new gateway, and that's been really successful.
So it's 100% free, right? What's the catch? How can this possibly be? It's funded by NSF. We do provide a lot of services for free, but in reality, I would probably tell you it's between 50 and 80% free. And the reason why is there are several places where co-investment is expected. When you engage, for example, for developer support and have one of these developers at 25% time, it's not just a developer for your project. They need to engage with your team where you have active developers also working on the project. So we won't do a project that's just us building a gateway for you. It needs to be a joint effort. When we talk about the boot camp and when we talk about the conference, the tuition for the boot camp is free, but you do need to get yourselves there and you do need to pay the travel expenses to be there. Conference does have registration fees and also travel expenses are required. But mostly, the most important thing that you can dedicate to one of these projects with the Gateway Institute is your time. Your project has to be more important to you than it is to anybody else. We can help a lot from a consulting standpoint, but ultimately you have to drive where that engagement goes and what it does for your gateway. So that's where we've been today. These are the services we've set up to date. And you might wonder, well, what are some of the things that we're doing next? If you recall this mess of applications that I talked about where people don't really necessarily know what the various applications do, whether there's overlaps, what have you, one of our next steps is to undergo sort of a tech summit about those various applications. And if you think about it, each one of these frameworks that people are developing has its own budget, and we're spending that budget entirely many times in oblivious awareness of each other. However, if we think about what some of those projects are doing, it's virtually impossible to not see that many of these projects have at least a portion of what they do, doing many of the same things as the other projects. So you think about some of these green pieces of the pie here, these may be things where if these frameworks were to cooperate, they can actually allocate those portions of their budgets to doing more interesting and novel things in gateways. You might think about this in terms of what people in industry call an industry consolidation, where things become commodities. Larger players gobble up the smaller players that are providing those commodities. And this is a common pattern in real industry. For example, here you see industry consolidation in foods. There's no reason we shouldn't think about research enterprises as undergoing the same sorts of activities. So we're going to be very focused on, in the next year, a series of tech summits to try to identify where some of our overlaps are in this field.
Back to me, so where's the Gateway Institute going forward? We really see the need to kind of develop our own identity beyond an NSF-funded project. We have so much interest, and it's been really difficult to operate within the funded grant, various institutional subcontract kind of model to grow the way we want. So this is really an exciting model to have a few years in. So we're looking at planning that really methodically, stakeholder analysis, surveys, and things like that, but getting ready to move rapidly into the next step. So we might be reaching out to anyone of you as people who are potentially interested in gateways in our services. So we hope that you'll return our calls and join some of these surveys. We're very much interested in working together. So if any of you in the audience feel like you have something that is gateway related, you're developing something you're not quite sure is a gateway, we can help any project across funded agency. We have some really nice international collaborations. So there's an awful lot that we can do together. We're very much interested in working together. And help us achieve our goal. When we started out this project, we had a very lofty goal of being this premier think tank around science gateways, having large numbers of researchers, large numbers of students, and we can't get there without the research community. We're very much interested in working with you. Thanks for your attention, and help yourself to